Hi, everyone. Welcome to Katie Couric, sponsored by Dove. And here's a man who needs no introductions, but what can I say? Ladies and gentlemen, Hugh Jackman.
Man's reach exceeds his imagination.
Is there any man in this world who doesn't fancy you?
I need you to read my mind.
That was my last cigar.
I'd hate to be such a nuisance.
Where the hell am I?
There's your life in something like 40 seconds.
I play it every morning anyway. I've seen that many times.
In fact, you brought that in, didn't you, Hugh?
Yeah, I'm glad it worked well for you. There is a longer one. I thought you might have played that. But.
Yeah. We'll watch that later, in the privacy of our own homes. How are you?
Fantastic.
Yeah?
I'm very, very well. I'm so happy to be in New York on Broadway. My kids are in school. It's a very, very good time in my life at the moment.
Fun time of year, too,
Yeah.
fall in New York.
It's fantastic.
First of all, we're doing this in the morning. How exhausted are you? I mean, that is a very grueling, intense role you have in A Steady Rain on Broadway.
It's a testament to your journalistic skills to get me in early because I'll say anything. I'm totally unguarded. This is basically breakfast at the moment for me. It is grueling, and it's not long. It's not like The Boy from Oz, which was 20 songs and dancing and physically and in every way draining. This is just mentally, emotionally draining. But exciting, because every night the play works in a strange way in that we both, Daniel Craig and I, are talking to the audience for 80% of it. So it's a conversation with the audience. It's wildly different every night. Lots of strange things happen.
Yes, one got a lot of attention, in fact, that
Yeah.
cell phone episode.
Yes.
I understand you guys were a little annoyed that, well, first of all, how did they get video of that? They shouldn't have been recording that, right?
Look, it's not the first barbecue for us. I mean, I know people are videoing and you can't stop it, really. I think it's a shame, but that's the way things are. Luckily, I don't think people are going to not come to the theatre because they see something. Unlike the movie business, where it's very, very dangerous, piracy. I think with theatre, I don't think it's going to stop people coming.
Yeah, and what did you think of that whole episode? I thought it was funny. I have to say, when I came to see you, I came to a Sunday matinee.
Yeah.
And there was some lady, I think, in the third row or something, the left side of the stage, if you're facing out.
Yeah.
And she was talking, or she was doing something, and it was distracting because I wasn't sitting that far from her. And you started talking to her in the middle of the play. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and what was she doing, by the way?
It was hard for me to tell, but I'm pretty sure she couldn't find a seat or something. And then someone else was saying, "Will you be quiet?" And it's just like any conversation. I mean, I know I'm pretending to be someone else up there, but I'm not pretending about having a conversation. I'm really trying my hardest to connect with every person in the theatre.
Well, you totally stayed in character.
Right, when someone's talking through it, it's like, "Are you all right? You want to finish? Yeah, it's up to you. Unless you got a better story, you want to tell your story." And funnily enough, it kind of breaks that fourth wall immediately, and it works well. But you were one seat in front of her. You couldn't understand what she was saying.
Well, no. I just know that she was noisy, and then I thought, was it an elderly person who was having trouble? I just couldn't figure it out. I thought you handled it really well.
Until later, that they came and apologized and found out it was a very elderly lady.
Oh, really?
Who couldn't find a seat. Oh. And I was like, I thought, I might have been a little tough. But it was becoming an issue because people were talking. But anyway, poor thing.
Aw.
But
well, did she get to meet you?
No.
No. And what happened with the cell phone? It just started going off and nobody was answering it, or?
Sometimes we stop the show, but it was the worst possible moment in the show. It's a point where my character is appealing to the audience for understanding of a really traumatic moment. I won't get into the details, but it's about this kid that's haunting me. So this thing I did, and I can't sleep. I go to bed, and I always see his face. And through this whole speech, the phone is ringing and ringing. And I'm thinking, just let it go. This is not a time to stop the show. And finally, I could hear other people going, "Turn off your phone."
All the time.
So I said, "Will you want to get it?"
You want to get that?
Because I thought, what's coming up is even more important. I
Right.
thought, I have to stop now. But it was that moment when people don't turn off the phone because they've let it ring 3 times and it's too late to go for it. And they're thinking, I know, I'll pretend it's someone else's. So they're doing, yeah, I could tell what was going on. They're doing that. And probably underneath, stamping on their bag to try and smash their phone, you know. But
They must
then
they
it
must have been
stopped.
so mortified, by the way. Can you imagine?
So mortified. And then it stopped. And just as about to start, it starts ringing again.
Oh
So
my
whoever's
God.
like insistent. So I mean, this is karma, by the way, because Deb, who you know, my wife, is quite famous for 2 things: falling asleep in the theatre and leaving her phone on, right? And I remember ringing her one time. I didn't know where she was, and I rang her, and she goes, "Hello." I said, "Where are you?" And she goes, "I'm at the theatre." I said, "And you answered the phone?" I said, "Turn your phone off." She goes, No. I'll walk out. I'll talk to you in a sec." And then I hear this clunk, chairs falling. It was in this small theatre. And she goes, "Oh, it's all right. I can talk now." I said, "Deb, that is shocking. Your phone rings. You don't like turn it off. You answer it." Anyway, so that was karma.
So it was a fairly long period of time, though, when you and Daniel Craig were kind of...
Went on and on.
Right? Oh,
I
God.
mean, when you're on stage, it felt like 5 minutes, but I think it was about a minute, but it felt like a long time. Anyway.
Let's talk about the play itself, because I'm curious. I hate to ask that such a hackneyed question, but what attracted you to this role here and to this part, and why did you do this play of all the plays?
John Crowley, the director, I was a massive fan of. He did The Pillow Man, which I saw on Broadway, and I'd actually auditioned for him way back for something, and I really wanted to work with him one day. And Daniel as well, I was a massive fan of. So I wanted to like it when I read the script. And when I read the script, I thought, this is really different. It's very raw theatre. This is something you don't see on Broadway a lot. Really, it was written for a small theatre of 75 people. It didn't need a lot of sets or anything. It's just
Right.
about 2 people telling their story.
And sitting in chairs, talking and walking around. That's it.
And you have to create the world for the audience. And that presented a really exciting challenge for me. Working with Daniel, it's a very tricky play because it's just 2 actors. It does go into scenes with us. We're going backwards and forwards. You have to really be in control of the material and of the piece. And the character was just something very different. I mean, he's a very different character than I get asked to play a lot.
Right.
You know? So
very kind of, well, how would you describe him?
dark.
Gritty, dark.
Gritty and dark. I mean, he's very much alpha male. He's a family man. He's doing everything he can, but feels the whole world is against him. He's a bit like a dictator of like a small third world country. He's got his circle, and everyone within that circle, which he's in charge of, he's the leader. Everyone within that circle he looks after, and if you're outside that circle, you're an enemy, and that's how he sees the world. And it's, you know, it was amazing going to Chicago and hanging out with those cops.
Is that what you did? Because,
Yeah.
you know, here, I mean, you don't obviously have a Chicago accent.
No.
It doesn't come to you naturally. So
No.
I wondered as I listened to you in the performance, how you kind of psyched yourself up to...
Yeah, we hung out with some cops there. It's a very humbling experience. I think they were having a bit of fun with us. The first stop we took was to the morgue. They took us to the morgue. Wow. You know, it's that was a way to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
this, Benny.
Yeah, totally. It was exactly like, yeah. Hey, we got James Bond and Wolverine. Take him into the locker room. And they open up and there's about 180 bodies just lying on the shelves.
Oh, God.
It went from there, just the smell, I remember. But going around in the squad car with them, hanging out, it's where you realise everyone should have a chance to do that before they just pick up a newspaper and read a story. I mean, you know, we all hear those stories, and part of the play is based on the Jeffrey Dahmer incident. I don't want to give too much away. I'm giving too much away.
That's all right. No, I
But,
think...
you know, real incidents where you think, how could a cop do that? And I think what the play is about and what these characters are trying to say is before you judge us, so I understand you're going to judge what we did, just imagine what it's like to be that cop at 1 o'clock in the morning in the most dangerous part of town where there's gangs and they've all got semi-automatic weapons. And by the way, 6 cops have been killed in this area in the last 6 months. So you're on edge, you know, and it's about that. It's about making people understand.
And all the pressures, I think, attendant to that kind of life. And I thought it was sort of about what a fine line there is between right, wrong, good, bad, morality and immorality.
Yes.
The people charged with guarding, you know, the left side often kind of bleed into the right.
Of course, and the irony being
That was
that
kind
if
of well said.
I was going to say, could I get that on paper because I need to
Can I
learn
just
that.
take a moment and say, oh no, go ahead.
Because you asked me what attracted me to the play, and I spent about 5 minutes meandering around what you said eloquently in 30 seconds. But it is an irony that you need a bit of aggression, or as the guy said to me, I'm looking for a cop who's got balls, you know, because he's going to walk up to a car with 6 gangbangers in it, and he's on his own in an area where he could get shot like that, and he's got to make those 6 gangbangers believe that he's not scared of them. And they know, you know, so it's a net, yet how do you then make sure that that person is always in control? When they're obviously coming, it's game time, they're out there like that. So it's
Sounds
the
like you
knife
learned
edge.
a lot too about
Totally,
sort
yeah.
of police work, and then
Yeah.
of course the whole play is further complicated by your friendship with Daniel
Which is
Craig's
the thing I love
character, which
about
is very complicated, and again, sort of the lines are blurred
Right.
as a result of your relationship and the pressures that you guys
known
both
e-
have.
We've known each other since kindergarten.
Right.
We've all got friends like that, right? And we stay friends. And then you get married, and at some point in your marriage, your partner says, why are you friends with this person? Do you guys really like each other? But you're so linked, you've known each other through so much, and you forge this relationship, these two do, and I think many people do, which is a weird kind of codependency in a way.
Yeah.
You've known each other for so long. It can be like a lot of marriages that go on, and people from the outside go, "Do you guys even like each other?" You know, it seems like you're just always at each other's throats. And at which point should he have come in and helped the other one out, or which, you know, it's complicated, and I think that's what I love about it. That's why I wanted to do it.
Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Daniel Craig. How did you guys hook up in the old-fashioned sense of the term?
A couple of actors, martini. No,
It was late.
It was late. Anyway, I met him very briefly. Well, one of the Oscars this year, but at an Oscar party I met him very briefly. But really not until I did this did we know each other.
Was he approached at the same time? I mean,
No, he knew it. He'd been attached for a year. Barbara Broccoli, who produced Bond movies, and her business partner, Fred Zoller, had found the play. He'd been attached to it for a year. So when they asked me to do it, I said, listen, I can't do it because they wanted to do it in London. I said, my kids are starting school here in New York. I can't be away. 24 hours later, Daniel rang up and said, will you do it in New York? And I said, yeah, absolutely, in a heartbeat. He says, all right, mate, we'll move over there. And I was very taken by him immediately for that. He's an unbelievably brilliant actor. So his instincts are unbelievable, very sensitive and smart. He is one of the funniest people I know.
Really?
So funny, like tears down your face, funny.
Because he seems kind of shy. I interviewed him for a movie he did with Nicole Kidman, and it was like pulling teeth, I have to say.
I think it's fair to say he's a little shy.
Yeah.
And I find that very endearing. I mean, he's very generous, very quietly generous in a lot of ways. I now know him well, so I see the things he does and behind the scenes things. He's a fairly private person. But I have to tell you, he's so funny and so quick. And it's funny when he talks very, very fast and quick and quite different to what I think a lot of people would expect. But to work with, I couldn't be happier. I mean, I'd take a bullet for the guy. Very cop talk. I'd take a bullet for the guy.
Sounds like you guys are going to be good friends for a long time, which is nice.
Definitely.
Because you don't probably always have that happen.
Not just showbiz friends. I think we'll be real friends.
That's nice. That's nice. And do you like the theater versus movies? Because I think I read somewhere or someone told me that you kind of like the freedom and spontaneity. You know, you can talk to an old lady in the front row when she can't find her seat at the cell phone.
I like it. When you're in musicals, big sets, and the set gets stuck, and everyone's like, I kind of love that moment. It's something that really sort of turns me on. I love the energy of the audience, particularly Broadway. New York audiences are like this, you know. They come like this. Whereas in Australia and England, they start like this. And then gradually, hopefully, they loosen up. But it's a very different atmosphere here. They give you so much energy. And you just get a run at it.
Was
as an actor,
it a little bit daunting because, I read Ben Brantley's review. I don't. Do you read reviews, by the way? No.
I get the temperature of it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I would say it was overall a decent review, but it was basically that you and Daniel Craig were sort of bigger than the piece itself, you know, and it was sort of hard to disengage from the fact that you were watching, you know, mega movie stars,
Right.
Wolverine, 007, kind of try to inhabit these
Yeah.
characters, and I guess there's nothing you can really do about that, is there?
No. I mean, look, the other thing I didn't mention why I wanted to do it, and Daniel feels the same, is it's a new piece of writing. And I think you're seeing less and less of that on Broadway. And I think it's great for both of us to use. Yeah. And any original work is going to need to be worked on. Very rarely does something come straight on and it's bang, you got it, you know? So, and Keith Huff, the writer, I love the story. He works for an medical encyclopedia during the day. He wakes up at 3 o'clock every morning of his life to write plays. That's his passion. And finally now I think he's giving up his job. So, you know, he's written 60 plays like that. And I love the play, and I think it's always unfair, you know, if some people are going to like it or not. But I know when I'm on stage if the play is landing. You know if you're in a dog, and you know if you're in something that is landing, that is affecting people. And I had a very similar situation with Boy From Oz. I didn't read it, but from all reports, Mr. Brantley hated The Boy From Oz, and it looked like we were, you know. But I was on stage, and I'm like, I can tell you they're getting it. I can tell you people are liking it, and it proved to be the case.
So do you go with your gut, you know, Hugh? Or, I mean, at some point when you're sort of splayed out there, you know, like a patient etherized upon a table, that's from the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, but I always think about that as public people,
Yes.
you know, kind of just for everyone to obliterate if they want.
Yeah.
You know, how have you dealt with that? Because it's not always easy, of course,
No.
and do you just not read it, or do you find a place in yourself that kind of is your own internal gauge of how you're doing in your life and your work?
There's also, you know, I've got people close to me who will be honest with me.
Yeah, like Deb, I'm sure, your
Totally.
wife.
Yeah, and she'll tell me, you know, maybe not on the first night she sees it, but at an appropriate moment, thankfully, she'll tell me the truth.
Honey.
Baby, how long's your contract? Can you get out of this one? No. And I think the more you go on, I remember my dad, I have to tell you, when I first told my dad I wanted to get into acting, my dad was a chartered accountant for Pricewaterhouse his whole life, and I was very nervous he was going to say, what? An actor? No. But he says, Hugh, I think that's a great thing for you to do. I think you'd be great. I've got one reservation. I said, what's that? And he said, I think you might be a bit too thin-skinned.
Really?
Yeah. And I went, what? And I see what he means. There is a part of me that is, but I think I've surprised myself at perhaps, I don't think I'm tough, but I'm probably a little more philosophical about it, or have become a little more philosophical. And it's never easy to feel you're not doing very well, or to feel that you're not raising to the expectations people. That's not easy, you know. But I just put everything into it. And I think I've got to this point now where there's not a thing I do where I don't go 110%. I can't not. So maybe I've got philosophical enough to know I've really done my best.
Yeah.
And I may have made a wrong choice. But something actually, now you're reminding me, see I'm waking up. It was The Boy From Oz that was a turning point for me, because I went on a complete gut reaction to do that. And there were many people in my life, not Deb, but many people who said that's a wrong choice. You're playing a gay entertainer for 18 months on Broadway as your career in movies is going. Don't do this. This is all bad. And I said, I know you say that and I can understand, but I feel like I've got to do it. And it turned out to be one of the great things I've ever done, and it gave me so much. And from that point on, I thought, you know what? If I make a gut decision that I've got to play this part, not for money, not for career opportunity, not because someone else tells me, but because I feel it here, it's so fine to live with, even failure, even abysmal failure. I mean, I've done some things. We did a TV show, Viva Laughlin, that got canned after the first episode. You know, and so, but at the time, it's easy to do. Right.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because as I was reviewing your body of work, as they say,
Yes.
There's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm going to refrain. But you know what struck me is that it seems utterly without calculation, and which I really
right,
sort
it's
of
not.
respected and appreciated. No, because I thought it seems to me, and of course I don't you well enough to say this, but you do things really because you just want to do them. It's not like, well, if I do this now and then I do this later,
Yeah.
that'll get me a job here, and then I'll become a huge box office star, and then I can go back to Broadway to stay in the public. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
seems like you kind of go with it,
I do.
which is great. That
well,
takes a
it's the
lot
only-
of. I think that takes a lot of. Sort of a sense of self and a lot of self-confidence to be able
Maybe.
to kind of go with your gut in a way.
Maybe I don't really know how to. I'm not smart enough to be a strategist. I'm not by nature Machiavellian at all in anything I do. It's terrible. I'm forever saying things. People say, "Why'd you say that?" And I go, "I don't know. I'm happy about it. I want people to know. I don't care
Yeah.
if people know about it. I spend my life pretending to be other people. It's my job, and I take it very seriously. And I trained at it and all that, and I understand how to do it. In my life, in the choices I make and day to day, or talking to you, or talking to people, I don't want to be Machiavellian. I don't want to give it that thought. I just want to experience life, So it's sometimes I think I'm just being maybe a bit lazy, and some people say, you should be don't talk like that. You got to be a little more reserved, or do this choice.
Or
you should
more
do this now.
mysterious. Maybe you
whatever it
shouldn't be
is.
out there that much
This
or
is the
something.
choice to do. Look what Tom Cruise does. He was a movie here and there. Or look at here, and you should do a comedy, then a this. And I go, I admire the way they can do it. I don't have the skill to do it. I don't. So, and I have at times I've made mistakes. I have made choices that someone said this is, and I've gone, I don't know, but are you sure I should? And it's turned out not great. And it's really hard to live with. That's when I made that choice. And I suppose that's where it's okay. It's okay to, if you put everything into it, you feel like I really wanted to do it, and you know what? It sucked. I sucked. It was really bad. But it's okay.
Yeah.
But
What
when
was
you-
it that really
I
sucked?
can't tell you. I can't tell you.
Like-
I
I'm
know
like,
you. I can see you go.
Yeah. You can't say.
I can't.
Well,
I can't.
you don't want to hurt the feelings of the
Totally.
people involved in the
Right.
project.
Totally.
So
They
after
probably know, but
after this, the play is over because it's just a 12-week run, right?
Yeah.
Steady rain.
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing next?
Uh,
Are you doing another one of those Wolverine movies? I have to be honest with you. I know this will come as a shock to you, Hugh, but I'm not like a Wolverine person. I don't get that whole
Thank you so much.
franchise.
It's really
No,
great.
seriously. I'm not in the key demos either, so don't worry
It's true.
about it.
It's true.
But what do you mean it's true? But what are you doing one of those movies? With the
yes. See?
oh, there he is.
Why would you miss it? Look, a little bit of nudity.
I have to
I get
say,
all my rage issues out. Any rage issues I have gone.
do you have fun doing those?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Really?
Yeah. No, really?
How many of you've done a lot of those, right?
Yeah, but again, I wouldn't do them otherwise. I mean, I know people say, you make too much. I have so more than I ever need, money-wise. More. I'm fine. I do it. Every time I do it, I never say, I'm doing another one until I see the script. It has to be something. But in the superhero world, in those kind of movies, Wolverine is by far the most interesting. And actually, the whole time from when I began, the one storyline that I went, that's a movie, because I was reading the comics, was this whole saga in Japan, which is really beautiful and different and fantastic. And I thought, that's a movie. And we've done 4 movies, we haven't done it yet. So I'm working on that script now. And if that comes up to being what I thought it might be, I'll do that. So I'll do 11 more and that's it. Right? That's it.
They are wildly popular. I mean, huge, right?
Yeah. It still amazes me, the people come up to me from all over the place, to all different types of people, all different demographics, trust me. It's always strange to me, though, when people go, my son loves it. And I go, how old's your son? 3. I go, what? 3-year-old? I'm slicing people's heads off here,
Yeah.
Anyway.
So you're looking at that script. Do you have anything?
But that'll be, I don't know when. There's a couple of movies I'm looking at. One which is a new one, which came to me from Mr. Spielberg, Steve.
Stevie.
At DreamWorks called Real Still, which I really love. It's it sort of feels a bit like Paper Moon, this sort of father-son story. It's great, and Sean Levy's going to be directing that, and that's looking like it might happen. And another one
That's been green-lighted, as they say. I guess when you're Steven Spielberg, you don't have to be green-lighted,
you can just do whatever you want. And the other one is this beautiful story set in the 1860s in America. It's called Unbound Captives, that Madeline Stowe is going to direct.
Wow.
Yeah, she wrote it.
She wrote it too?
It's amazing. About during the fights there between white settlers and the army and the American Indians, during those fights, sometimes the white kids would be abducted taken from the battles and be raised by the American Indians. And that's one of the essential parts of the story.
That's so interesting.
And when they would be found, sometimes 8 years later, most of the time the kids wouldn't want to go back. They would be raised with great reverence and really taken by the chief to be raised by them. It was sort of an amazing story. My character was one of those, and he's now older, but is going out to find some kids who've been abducted. So it's a really, really, really beautiful story.
That's Madeline Stowe. Who'd have thunk it?
You know, I got to tell you, this script is out of this world.
I wonder if she became interested. She did that movie with Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yes.
What was it? A James Fenimore Cooper?
It's just slipped my mind. Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, Last of the Mohicans.
Yes, Last of the Mohicans. Maybe that's when. But she's from the South somewhere.
Well, that's cool. So are you going to do that? You're just reading
looking
the
like
script?
it. No,
Yeah.
it is looking like it. But at the moment, So, but there'll be a little bit of a break after the play.
That's good because
I've been taking breaks, by the way. I had a great summer.
You did?
I did a little bit. We did the Oscars and things like that, but I had essentially a year off with, a lot of publicity in there, but I had a lot of time off.
Isn't that nice, though?
I loved it.
It's sort of like not working is really underrated, right? Well, we don't have that much more time because I know you have to go, but I want to ask you just a couple quick questions about...
One of my questions for you is,
Yeah, that'll be the next. That'll be when you have a show called At Hugh Jackman. You can do that, buddy.
Okay.
Just kidding. I'm totally kidding. We can do that whenever. But I wanted to ask you about your kids, first of all.
Yes.
You've got Oscar and
Oscar
Ava.
is 9 and Ava 4.
And you're enjoying that?
Oh, where's my boy? There he is.
There he is.
Oh, look at him.
And how are you enjoying, that's so cute, fatherhood?
Okay. I have to tell you the little story about that because Oscar, we call him Mr. Au Contraire because he loves to go the opposite. So we got seats at Madison Square Garden, care of the Knicks, thank you, courtside, and he's wearing that hat. But he decided because he's born in Los Angeles and Denver Nuggets, Denver's closer to Los Angeles, that he'd go for Denver. Okay. So but whenever Denver scored a goal, would stand up and cheer. And then eventually that hat he picked up because the Knicks didn't win. He got the hat and he put it on the ground. He's stamping on the hat. He got so into it. And I'm like, Oscar, I was so pleased for the second that he was into it. But at the same time, I was like, mate, we're here as, guests of the Knicks. And you're sort of stamping and spitting on the hat is kind of a little over the top. Anyway.
That's so funny.
He was so into it that Smith, the star player for the Denver Nuggets, at the end of the game took his shirt off and came over to Oscar and gave it to me, sweaty shirt. That's how much of a fan he was.
That's funny.
Yeah, Spike Lee was not happy.
Oh, gosh. And then Ava is how old?
4.
4.
Yeah.
And so she's in preschool, I guess, now, right?
Yeah, she's, preschool. She started a little school down in New York, downtown, and she's just poster child. She loves school, loves it. She can't wait to go. She comes home, tells me all about her day. So I've got Oscar who was like, for years, I don't want to go to school. And anyway, but she's loving life. And she's so like Deb.
Really?
It's unbelievable to watch. The nature-nurture argument, because both of my kids are adopted. And she was fairly quiet, very independent as a kid, as a baby. She would not be fed from 6 months. You could not put a spoon to her mouth. She'd do it herself. Very like Deb, actually. Unlike Deb and me, she goes around the house, closing drawers, picking things up.
Oh,
wiping.
She's a neat freak.
Love it. We need a little OCD in our family.
You don't need a housekeeper.
No, we've got Ava.
Right,
perfect. She loves it. Daddy, I love to be neat. And I says, I love you so much.
That's funny.
I said, you don't want to be a chef by any chance, do you? And she goes, maybe. I said, perfect child.
And you like school. All right, so before we go, let me ask you quickly about the Oscars too. Are you will you be doing that again? And was that a fun experience? Did you have a great time? Weren't you a nervous wreck, Hugh? I was nervous for you because that's a pretty it's a big stage upon which you can stumble, and it can be kind of and I feel like whoever does that job is so harshly judged. But you know, you don't get worried about that?
I was very nervous 2 months before. I said yes, hung up the phone, and I sat there for about 5 minutes going, should I have just said no then? I've said yes. I'm going to be, And I sat for about 5 minutes, and Deb came into the room. She said, what's up? And I said, Deb, you're about to go to bed with the next host of the Oscars. She started jumping up and down on the bed. So then when I went to the very first, she was. Yeah. When I went to the very first production meeting, and there was one piece of paper like that, one piece of opening number 7 minutes, commercial break 1, segment 2, and I was like, can we just go back to that first bit, the 7 or 8 minutes? You guys got any plans? They said, no, it's up to you, whatever you want. That's for an actor. That's where's my script? What do you want me to stand? What do you want me to say? That was until I worked out what to do with that opening, and those guys who wrote that opening were so brilliant. Yeah,
you know, and I heard from the man who directed, actually indirectly directed, but he directed it, but I heard indirectly.
Roger?
Yeah. That he just thought you were the greatest person. And this one thing I wanted to say, you know, whenever your name comes up, you know, obviously you have a lot of talents, and you know, no, seriously, but everyone says what a terrifically nice person you are, and I hope you know that, and I hope you're pleased to hear that, and I hope you hear it anyway from people other than me. But it must feel so good to know that people really, really like you.
Well, thank you. I mainly feel relief because my father was quite strict in manners and all of that. And if I ever feel like I'm getting a little out of whack, I can.
Too big for your britches, as my mom would say.
He would say that too.
Yeah.
I feel he'd come in and just go, get a hold of yourself. Who do you think you are? You know. Yeah. So, you know, it's. I feel really blessed, unbelievably blessed. I could not have vaguely imagined. So it's something like the Oscars. I'm a kid from the northern suburbs of Sydney who used to stay up late at night and watch the Oscars. You know, the idea of hosting it is so out of control to me that, yes, I was nervous, but there was no way I was going to let it ruin that. I mean, I may never get asked to do that stuff again, but my life has felt like that. A lot of my life has not been, I always dreamt of doing that. It's felt like, me? Okay, really? All right. You really want me to? And so I feel really, really blessed. And my family life and people I've met, and you know, so
it's all good.
It's all good. I have my moments, but I try and have them in private.
Yeah. Are you ever like really cranky and really mean?
Yeah, I can get cranky. I hit it twice, but it was early days in the marriage. Now we're settled in. I did hit it once.
You did?
This is very early. I can't believe I'm telling you this. Wow. Katie Couric, you did.
Newsflash.
I had this dream. I didn't hit it hard, but I had this dream. I was being chased by this guy, and I caught him, and I knew this whole. I'm giving the short version, and I said, if I find out you're this person, I'm going to hit you. And I woke up to this, Hugh. And not that hard, but I was in her back, small of her back. I was just going like this, and it was early on in our relationship, and I'll never forget that look in Deb's face, like, uh-oh, I knew this was too good to be true. This guy's a freak.
But that was the first and only time, I hope. The first and only time, yes, in my sleep. But the only time for me that is ever is when I get a little overwhelmed. You know, I'm not great at saying no to things. I'm guessing you're a little bit the same. Sometimes, yeah.
You've actually been my hero and rescued me on one of those times where I've...
That's right.
Yes,
well,
said
we
yes
should tell
to
that
one
story.
too many two things.
Hugh was emceeing an event, and as it happened, you were called away, I guess, for a shoot or something, and your office called me kind of desperately saying, would you fill in? And I thought, you know, first of all, Hugh Jackman is the nicest person in the world. Secondly, that has happened to me. Yeah. And thirdly, I appreciated that you cared enough to get a replacement for yourself, because a lot of times people say to the organization, which was the Worldwide Orphans, and we both like the woman, Jane Aronson, very much. And a lot of people would just say, I'm really, really, really sorry, you know, something happened at the last minute, and kind of leave people high and dry. But the fact that you cared enough to try to get someone to fill in for you, I thought that was great.
They were thrilled. because they were kind of happy to have me, but to have you
Oh,
was like,
please.
they were like, whoa.
I'm sure they were like,
could you cancel on us again? And call another one of your buddies? Because that was great.
Police. All right, I'm going to do a quick thing where I'm going to just have you finish the sentences, and then you're going to
okay.
go. And oh, shoot, and I didn't do my Twitter questions, so these are more important. What's the best mistake that you ever made? I guess, I guess The Boy from Oz?
Yes. Well, that was
No?
a mistake.
Well, at first no, it wasn't a
Everybody
mistake.
else did it the bit.
All right, so you answer it. I don't need to answer for you.
No, well, my wife said to me, begged me, she said, you cannot do this Wolverine thing, whatever that is. This sounds ridiculous. Please don't do it. And I said, yeah, I'll think about it. And then quietly went and auditioned.
So that was
the only
best
time she's
mistake.
ever been wrong. Yeah.
That was Abby Marie 09, by the way.
Thanks, Abby Marie 09.
Belgica? Will you ever do a Bond movie? That's a good question, because now you and Daniel Craig are BFFs.
The BFFs. Daniel will be doing that thing.
No,
I'm
I don't
guessing,
mean
for
as
another-
James Bond, but maybe
Oh.
you could be the villain.
Could be cool. I don't know. We're working for the same producer. I might put it. We'd laugh too much. It'd be ridiculous.
Oh, maybe. I think it'd be fun.
It would be
Natalie
fun.
Bannon asks, how do you feel about the paparazzi always photographing your family, your kids, and you?
It's a really good question, and I'm uncomfortable with it.
You seem so good-humored, though. When I see your photos, like frolicking in the water and stuff, I think, does Hugh know they're there? Is he being cooperative?
I do. I say to them, sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. I say, I know you're going to do whatever you're going to do. I'd really like it if my kids didn't know. Use whatever lens, hide, whatever. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But the last thing I want to do is be in a prison, or not go and play with my kids. I'm a goofball, you know. I want to play with them. I want to slide down the slide with them, and I want to do all that stuff. I don't want to be out there with sunglasses and a hat on and hiding while they're playing, you know, or not go out with them or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's so. But it is. We went out apple picking the other day, and they were outside our house. It's not every day, by the way. It's, you know, occasional. We went an hour and a half north, and there was 15 of them followed us an hour and a half north. You know,
That's so annoying.
Yeah, and
Do you ever feel that they're slightly menacing?
Never.
No?
No. And I it's sort of the nature, you can't sort of, who do you get angry with? You get angry with them, do you get angry with the people buying the magazine, or you just sort of, I just figure path of least resistance, and I know they're going to take a photo, and they took a photo, and I said, guys, I know you've unexpectedly come an hour and a half. I said, I really want to I just pulled one guy, and I said, look, I sort of spotted the alpha paparazzi, and I said, I know you're going to get a shot, so can you just do it and go so I can have a day? And they did. So, you know, sometimes I suppose there's some reason to be had. I figure that's the way forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you kind of give them what they need, then they're, you know, and they are, on some level, they're just trying to make a living, but it is kind of, they can be very aggressive, and I think...
And I worry for my kids. I really only worry for my kids. I mean, you can't go into this business without part of you thinking, well, I'm going into it, there's a public aspect to it, but my kids didn't ask for it. That's what I want to protect.
Yeah.
And by the way, America and Australia is the only country where you can actually publish photos of children. Everywhere else, did you know they pixelate the photos of the kids?
Really? Even in Great Britain?
Great Britain. All over
Really?
Europe, they're pixelated. And it doesn't seem like their sales are suffering. So I feel like that's probably the way we're going to go.
Bruce Urbany asks, how was it like working with Christopher Nolan? Would you work with him again? How about on the next Batman?
In a heartbeat on anything Chris Nolan wants to do. I think he's probably one of the best directors out there. He hasn't made a bad movie, and I'd love working with him. And by the way, every time he does a movie, I give him a call, and he just says, there's no part for you in this one.
Bill C. at 24, who are some of the actors you grew up watching? Who did you like to watch?
I loved De Niro. I loved Meryl Streep. I loved a lot of the English actors. My parents are English, and I used to go and see them on stage. Ben Kingsley, Ian McKellen, Judi Dench. Michael Gambon is probably one of the more inspiring actors for me growing up.
Yeah.
And John Travolta. In terms of movie stars, fans, I was, and still am, just a massive fan of John's.
Well, they're telling us we have to wrap, but it was, thank you, Hugh, first of
I
all,
give
for
way
coming
too long
in.
answers.
No,
you know?
no, you don't. It was, are you kidding? It was so much fun to talk to you.
Nice
I had
to talk to you too.
finish the sentence, but I think are they going to yell at me if I do that? Are they saying that I can't do that? They said I could? Oh, good. Okay, real quickly. I thought this would be sort of fun, and it might not be, but we will see. We will see, right? The leading lady I'd most like to work with is
My wife.
Well, would
No,
you
but
guys ever do that?
We did. That's where I met her.
Oh, that's right, but that
My
was a
wa-
long time ago.
Exactly. That's why I like to do it again. She just was in a movie called Blessed. Did I mention Halle Berry? Sorry. I've only
God,
done
I was
4
like
movies
thinking,
with her.
oh, Deb is going to be so happy to hear this, and then you ruin it with Halle Berry.
It's that thing with marriage. You get too soppy, and all of a sudden she'll be like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
That was a little too
All right, so
mushy.
Deb first.
Deb first.
And then Halle Berry second.
Yeah, yeah.
Halle Berry seems great.
One of the coolest girls, one of the greatest women. It's great.
The leading lady I would least like to work
No,
with
I'm
is...
not going near that one. Nowhere
Come
near
on, I
it.
want to see Hugh Jackman, the dark side, just
Yeah.
for a nanosecond.
Can we turn the photo-
the
turn the
difference
cameras
between
off, I'll tell you.
Australian actors and American actors is?
Cheaper, much cheaper. Why do you think there's so many of us working?
What bugs me the most
And
is...
taller. What bugs? I think you've asked me this question before.
I have?
I don't know why I have a deja vu on that. What bugs me?
It can be personal, professional, anything.
Yeah. I do hate being late. I hate other people being late. I don't like lateness. I hate it. I'm very uncomfortable being late. You look at me like
Oh, I thought you said light.
I
You're
hate
saying
light.
late.
I want everything dark. Light, mate.
I was like, oh
Light.
God, we've been kind of light. Is he really upset with this?
No, I want a serious dark
Late.
discussion. Light,
Light.
mate. Light.
Okay.
I thought, is that weird? I'm thinking, is that OCD? To hate being late?
I was like, lightness? What is it? All right. What I absolutely have to have on my iPod is...
Colin Hay, who's the ex-singer of Men at Work, but his stuff, I love Colin Hay. And I have U2 when I work out, AC/DC, but I like that kind of music. Before the show, sometimes Colin, I'm listening to a lot of Bruce Springsteen at the moment before the show.
Yeah.
Feels very Denny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm listening to at the moment.
And finally, my idea of a perfect day is...
Huge breakfast. So waking up, massive breakfast, and before breakfast, going to the beach with my kids swimming as the sun comes up. I'm a morning person, so cut me off at noon because I'll be going forever. But morning is, and great food, hanging out with my kids. I'm pretty boring. I am pretty boring. I love roller coasters too, so probably like an hour of the scariest roller coasters imaginable. I'm just making this up now.
That's okay. You can stop there.
Yeah. Did I mention sex in there somewhere?
Okay. All right.
sorry.
Anyhow, we're out of time. Hugh,
Sorry, we're only up to 10 a.m.
Thank you again for coming by. It's great to see you. I haven't talked to you in a long time,
too.
so I really appreciate your generosity in coming on our little web show.
You're little, not so little. Look at this.
Our little web show, which, by the way, have I mentioned, it's sponsored by Dove.
You had, yes, you had once. But
Anyway, thanks
yes,
again, Hugh.
thank you, Dove.
All right, good to see
I mean,
you.
thank you,
Dove.
Katie.
Well, thank you, Dove, too. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. See you next
Give
time.
me a snug.
Mwah.
Thank you.